So, you are about to start writing a theory of knowledge essay as required by the International Baccalaureate Diploma program. In this video and in the couple of following videos, we are going to introduce some things you will need to know when you embark on such a project. Let's set three things straight first. The TOK essay is written on 6 prescribed titles provided by the IBO, from which you can choose one that you like the best. The length of the essay is set to 1,200 to 1,600 words. The type of essay that we are talking about here is an argumentative essay. It is not supposed to be a personal narrative, descriptive essay, research report, or literary analysis. In a nutshell, an argumentative essay is an essay where the writer takes a stand regarding some issue. TOK revolves around questions. The questions that we focus on in TOK are of a special kind. They are questions about knowledge. We call them knowledge questions. Knowledge questions are typically open-ended, in the sense that there is no definite correct answer to these questions. Thirdly, they are fairly general in nature. In other words, knowledge questions call for critical reflection on knowledge, on its nature, sources, forms, extent, limitations, consequences, etc. Many find the lack of a single right answer slightly disorienting. Nevertheless, knowledge questions underlie much of the knowledge that we take for granted. Much of the disagreement and controversy encountered in daily life can be traced back to a knowledge question. This is the reason why we have TOK in the first place, and it is the reason why it is so important. In physics, one might ask a knowledge question like, why do the planets in the solar system orbit around the Sun? Even though this is a knowledge question, it is not the kind of knowledge question that we are interested in TOK. Instead, we could ask a second-order question about the nature of knowledge, like, to what extent is your belief that the planets orbit around the Sun in the solar system based on personal experience, and to what extent it is based on trust that teachers and scientists are telling you the truth and that they definitely know. The logical pair to a knowledge question is a knowledge claim. Not surprisingly, the kinds of knowledge claims that we are interested in TOK are claims about the nature of knowledge. I'll give you 2 examples of knowledge claims. All genuine knowledge is based on empirical evidence. All true knowledge is based on rational reasoning. As you can see, these claims are in direct opposition to each other. They say completely opposite things about knowledge. However, both of them are answers to one knowledge question. What is knowledge based on? Very often the prescribed titles that provide the starting point of a TOK essay are knowledge claims of this kind. Here is just one example. Some areas of knowledge seek to describe the world, whereas others seek to transform it. Explore this claim with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. Notice that what is presented here is a knowledge claim. It is a claim about the nature of knowledge. When you see such a claim, your first instinct tells you that you should either agree or disagree with this claim. However, it is a good idea to postpone judgment for a little while. Perhaps there is a third alternative. In order to properly understand the knowledge claim made in the prescribed title, you need to figure out the knowledge question which it answers. When you are able to do that, you will see that to each knowledge question there are many answers. The prescribed title is just one of them. If you limit your thinking to whether you agree or disagree with the knowledge claim, you easily ignore what the other alternatives are. Another thing worth observing at this point is that the prescribed titles often ask you to compare and contrast ideas, claims, ways of knowing, or areas of knowledge. Secondly, many prescribed titles ask you to choose areas of knowledge or ways of knowing that you want to consider in your essay. Even though TOK questions and TOK claims are fairly abstract, the TOK is not supposed to float in verbal space without a concrete relation to real life. On the contrary, the TOK essay must address real-life situations. Real-life situation is, as you know, one of those technical terms in TOK. We'd better define real-life situation here. A A real-life situation is something that happened to somebody, somewhere, sometime. In other words, if you can answer the questions who, what, when, where, you are thinking about the real-life situation. The real-life situation may be personal or local in nature. It may relate to your personal life or be relevant for your school, your community, to your nation, or it may be internationally or globally relevant. Obviously, not all real-life situations are interesting. What makes a real-life situation interesting from TOK point of view is that there is some moral, political, logical or epistemological problem related to it. You also need to understand that real-life situation is not the same as an example. A real-life situation is something much bigger than that. Real-life situation is where the knowledge question arises. There must be a real problem, a problem in real life, that many people try to solve by thinking, making research and writing. And you are one of them when you write your TOK essay. A real-life situation is, therefore, related to some contemporary problem. I take an example. Let's say that you encounter the following real-life situation. You walk down the street at the rush hour and you see a lot of cars. You know that what is going on here aggravates the global warming. You have just learned on your geography lesson that private cars produce 61% of transportation-related CO2 emissions. You also know that there are many suggestions regarding how to reduce traffic-related CO2 emissions. Some advocate for electric cars, some advocate for higher fuel taxes, some for better bike lanes or better public transportation systems, and so on. The list goes on. While you reflect on this, a knowledge question pops into your head. How can we know what would be the most efficient way to reduce traffic-related CO2 emissions? You see, from a simple real-life situation, you ended up asking a fairly abstract question about the nature of knowledge. If you were to pursue this question further, you would eventually make some knowledge claims about how do we know which is the most efficient way to reduce traffic-related CO2 emissions. In fact, you might venture to make claims about how can we know about anything at all. It is useful to compare the role of real-life situation in a TOK presentation and in TOK essay. In the TOK presentation, you are supposed to start with the real-life situation, extract the knowledge question out of it, and come up with the knowledge claim. In the TOK essay, it is the opposite. In the prescribed title, you are presented with the knowledge claim, and you need to figure out what knowledge question it is an answer to, and what is the real-life situation that gave rise to such a knowledge question. Because the TOK essay is an argumentative essay, you need to argue for some specific point of view regarding the issue. In the following videos we will show you with much more detail what that actually means, but at this point it's worth mentioning that it is insufficient to make just one point. You need to bring in alternative views as well. In order to do that, you are probably going to need to do some research, find good sources, challenge your views, elaborate your vocabulary, and have the courage to argue with others. And yes, you do need to cite your sources and have a systematic bibliography at the end of your essay. This all may sound quite challenging to do, and indeed it is true that knowledge questions that TOK deals with are difficult. With great likelihood you are not the first person who has tried to solve the problem that you are tackling. Therefore, a great deal of humility is in order here. While you do want to let your position in this issue to be heard, it is a good idea not to sound too opinionated and show your awareness that alternative perspectives do exist. Remember, the word essay comes from the French word essayer, that means to try. And that's all you need to do when you write a successful essay. You need to try and try your best. More good news is that you are not completely alone in this. Your teacher should provide help to you. You can discuss issues related to your essay with your teacher. However, your teacher is not going to feed you ideas, much less answer the question that you are exploring. Remember that TOK questions are open-ended and rational people may disagree about what the correct answer is. When it comes to knowledge claims, it is okay to disagree. Another source of help is your classmates. Discussing with your classmates about the issues that you are dealing with is one of the best ways to enlarge your perspective in preparation of writing your TOK essay. Doing research is also important, but remember, the TOK essay consists of arguments and counter-arguments for different views rather than just an exposition of knowledge. Okay, this is all for the first video. Check out the next ones for more precise tips for writing a strong TOK essay.